Welcome to Book Babble. I'm Definitive D, and today we are going to be talking about Blue is the Warmest Color. Now, this is a graphic novel written by Julie Moreau. It was originally published in French back in 2010. It has since been translated into English, and it is a beautiful, heart-wrenching story. Now, this is the story of Clementine, a French high school student who, throughout the course of the graphic novel, discovers that she is in love with a blue-haired girl named Emma. The graphic novel is mostly done in black and white, with pops of blue here and there. Emma has blue hair, Clementine writes her story in a blue notebook, and the choice to only use blue here and there I thought was very powerful. When you saw blue, you really paid attention to it. This story was very heartwarming and very heart-wrenching at the same time. You really could identify with the struggle that Clementine was going through. Anyone who has been in love, regardless of if it's a same-sex relationship or a non-same-sex relationship, everyone, I think, has had that feeling, that sensation of what love is. So you really get caught up in that story, and you feel for her. You want her to succeed. And when things go certain ways, you feel that heartbreak. So this story is told through a bunch of diary entries. In the very beginning, this is not a spoiler, you find out that Clementine has died, and Emma is reading her story and figuring out how she got to where she ended up. And I think that it is a very effective choice to go through these flashbacks when there is that heartbreak and when relationships end for whatever reason. There is always those two people left. While this mostly is a story about love, it is also a story about loss and relationships ending, and I think that this story is a story that everyone will identify at least in part with. If you've ever been in love, if you've ever loved and lost, I think this is something that you will find pieces and go like, yeah, I remember what it's like to have those feelings and to have love non-reciprocated or have love reciprocated. It is something that we all feel, and I think that it's a story that is worth sharing. I really think that you should be picking up Blue is the Warmest Color. I highly recommend reading this one. I really haven't seen it talked about much on BookTube, and I think that's great, and maybe if I can get more people to pick it up, that's awesome, because I really think that this is a story that everyone should at least experience once. Now, the graphic novel actually did get turned into a film. It was a French film, Blue is the Warmest Color. I did buy this to watch it because I was so enamored, and I was like, great, wonderful, somebody is taking this beautiful piece of art and they're translating it into film. I wanted to see how it was done. Now, unfortunately, I thought that the film was lacking in a lot of the metaphor and a lot of the imagery that the graphic novel had, and in a few places it actually surprised me how much further this film went and strayed from the original source material. For instance, I was talking earlier about how important to the graphic novel that pop of blue was and how symbolic that was. Unfortunately, in the film, you see it very super saturated, and you see it everywhere. There's no importance and significance to that color. I think that if I was going to adapt this into a film, that I would have went more the Sin City route, where I would have probably filmed in black and white, and then popped that blue when you saw it in that graphic novel. So I was really disappointed in that. The other thing that was really disappointing is that they really played up the sexuality of Clementine, who they actually renamed in this film Adele. There was 2 sex scenes in the film, and they were very gratuitous. When I say gratuitous, I don't mean that they weren't necessary, because they're definitely necessary to the plot. But when I was going through theater school and I was directing something, one of the things that we were taught is there has to be a really justified reason. There has to be that need for it. And I think that while the scenes were important to the plot and the way that they were shot and the length of them really took away from the story. And maybe that was the point, maybe there was a reason why the director chose to do that, but I felt that it really distracted from the plot and the story. It didn't really drive the story along, and that's something that I am really passionate about when I am directing something. If I direct something, or if I'm watching a movie or a piece of theater, I really look and go like, what choice? Okay, that choice that was made to include that nudity, to include that sex scene, to even include that kiss or whatever. What's the reason? What's the buy-in? And unfortunately, there was no buy-in for me. It was done almost more so for the shock factor that this is a story about lesbians, we have to therefore have a lesbian scene and let's draw it out. It's not necessarily in line with how I identified the plot being, because it's not about the sex. It's not about... the graphic novel isn't necessarily a lesbian love story. It's just a love story. On the back of the DVD, it says that it's remarkable. It's the first great love story in the 21st century. And I would agree in the fact that it is a great love story, but I feel that the choices the director made in not paying attention to that, the blue, and to really amping up that sex scene, I think it really takes away from the message that Julie was trying to get at with that graphic novel. Now, if you are interested in looking at the film, I mean, you can. I'm not going to discourage you from, but just know that I would really encourage you to read the graphic novel first before you take a look at the film, and then let me know if you agree with me. Maybe I'm just bonkers and I'm overthinking things, but I just feel that it works better as a graphic novel than a film. At least in the way that this director chose to film it. Like I said though, I really recommend you guys picking up Blue is the Warmest Color. And if you have read it, I'd love to hear what's your thoughts on it. Was it as moving for you as it was for me? And if you've seen the film, do you agree with me? And from me to you, I hope your day is just to be. I'll see you soon.